Live stream is on. Thank you.
All right, and here we go. I'll call our meeting to order, and happy 2026. I welcome everybody to our first meeting of the Abbotsford Board of Education for this new year. At this time, I'd like to acknowledge that the Abbotsford School District is on the traditional and unceded territory, of the Sumath First Nations and the Maskwe First Nation. With this, we respect the long-standing relationship that Indigenous nations have to this land, as they are the original caretakers. And at this time, we'll have the playing of our national anthem.
O Canada, our home and maiden land, true patron love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, a true north, strong and free.
All right, always great to hear that song. Before we get into our agenda, I would like to start by congratulating our superintendent, Nathan Ning, for receiving the King Charles III Coronation Medal. And I just, for those that you might not know what that's about, the King Charles Coronation Medal was created to celebrate His Majesty's coronation and to recognize people who have made meaningful contributions to the communities and to our country. The medal recipients recognize leadership, service, creativity, and courage, and include people from many sectors of all ages whose contributions have strengthened their communities and upheld the enduring values of compassion, integrity, and public spirit. So on behalf of the Abbotsford Board of Education, congratulations, Superintendent Ning, on receiving this prestigious recognition and this medal.
Thank you, Board Chair Peterson.
All right, and that's from all of us. Man, that's pretty neat. All right, looking for adoption of the agenda.
So moved, Rye.
Seconded.
Wilson.
Okay, moved by Trustee Rye, seconded by Trustee Wilson. And voting buttons are up. And
I had my hand up.
See, okay,
Yeah, just wanted to say that for as for the last 3 times, I will not be supporting this motion, mostly just because of where we are. I just don't think it's necessary for us to be meeting here. There's no pandemic. We should be meeting in person. We should be facing the public. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And looking for approval of our minutes of the public board meeting held December 9th.
So moved, Rajwan.
Second, Keeler.
I'm sorry, seconded by?
Trustee Kaler.
Thank you.
Now we're having a screen share here. Is that the case, or am I imagining something?
That's
Yeah, I'm
correct.
seeing the same.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
to show the voting buttons.
Oh, okay. Do we need to show it as a screen share? That's not what, okay, is that what would we normally do?
Yes.
Okay, All right.
I'll assist with hands, Chair Peterson.
Okay. Thank you. All right. And looking for approval of consent items.
Move with comment, Wilson.
Second, Rye.
Okay. Trustee Wilson, Trustee Rye. Thank you.
And may I comment?
And you may comment. Yes.
Thank you kindly, Chair Peterson. In the consent items, we do have our school liaison list as well as our committees that are presented to the public. They are included here as information and as approval. I just wanted to be clear that the board chair appoints and that they are here for approval as consent items to bring them forward into the public, not for the board to approve them because they are already established by the chair. Thank you.
Yeah. And I'll just add that if anybody wants to bring any of these forward to me, they can do that privately, but not in the form of this meeting. Thank you. Trustee Roach.
Yeah, hi, thanks. I just had a question on one of the consent items. We have the BC Public Sectors Employee Association annual report. And in the section, one of the goals is on reconciliation, and they refer to training on truth, decolonization, and reconciliation. And I just wonder if somebody in our board or in our staff, perhaps the superintendent, could just explain what is meant by decolonization. And the reason I bring it up, I think we should be looking for unity and togetherness and bringing people together. And often people have mentioned to me that this term makes them feel like we're dividing Indigenous and non-Indigenous people, and we should be trying to bring those two groups together. Thank you.
And Trustee Roach, while I can appreciate your question, I'm going to suggest that we can bring this issue forward to a different meeting. Because in that there was no preparation for this, your question. I think that we will move it to a different meeting, but not forget that, and we'll ask you to remember to bring it forward.
Okay, appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Okay, now we're looking at the minutes of our education committee meeting. Do we do them all together? Remind me. Somebody remind me, please.
Yes, we do them all together. Also, Chair, one point to note that in the consent items, there is no debate. There's nothing. If somebody wants to talk about it, they have to sever it first.
Yes, and
just a reminder.
Because of the nature of the question, I've said that we will bring it forward for another time.
Right.
All right. Thank you. All right. So the minutes of the education committee meeting, December 2nd.
Point of order, Chair. We're still voting on the approval of the consent items.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. All right. We have some people to vote yet. Trustee Rye, thank you. And there we go. Okay. All right. Now the minutes of the education committee meeting, December 2nd.
Move to approve.
Second,
Trustee Rye.
Trustee Rye, sorry.
Trustee Rye.
Second, Rajwan.
Trustee Kandarajwan. Thank you. And here comes our voting buttons. Oops. I'm out of sync.
My apologies. It's so. What item are we on?
We were at 6.5.
6.5. Okay.
Yes.
So that there is no voting button. I'm sorry, this is new to me, but there's no voting button here. Is this?
I'm going to suggest the following, that we group all three of these with consent from everybody and do it by hand. That we
Trustee Chair Peterson, they are all adopted as a block under consent items. I had trouble with this and you mentioned, and I didn't put my hand up.
Yeah, sometimes we do it. Yeah,
it's one vote.
Okay, well, but because there are no voting buttons, if we could all just show by hand approval of that, then we can move on. All right, all in favor?
Sorry, Chair Peterson, we have already voted on all six together.
All
Yeah.
of them, all consent items, part A
Are
and
as
part
one
B
block.
have been
Okay.
voted on in
Yeah.
one block.
Well, thank
That's
you.
what I
I'm
was trying
reminded.
to
Okay.
inadequately.
I'm reminded. Yes, I should have
We're
remembered
on
that.
7.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Okay. Delegations. Well, we have no delegations, but one of the things I would like to make mention is that before Christmas, there was some significant flooding yet again in our community. And I would just like to, on behalf of the board, say a huge thank you to all our staff for how they adapted and pulled through this yet difficult situation. Feeling really bad for so many in our community because of that flooding. But you know, our folks in our school district, you know, lessen that impact on our schools and so on. So I appreciate all those people that worked on our behalf around this terrible situation. Okay, and we're into education reports, and I'll turn it over to Superintendent Nang.
Thank you, Chair Peterson. It's my pleasure to welcome Steve Stobie, who is our Director of Information Technology. And Director Stobie is going to present a progress report to the board detailing the significant accomplishments of the Information Technology Department and optimizing technology utilization. So with that, I'll turn it over to Director Stobie to present to the board.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Steve Stobie, as Superintendent Ng said, Director of IT. And tonight, I'm happy to be here. I'm a new face. I just joined last month, but I'm very excited to be back. Tonight, I'll be sharing a brief update on 24-25 and how the IT department worked towards supporting the board's strategic plan. Let's start with who we are and how we're structured. First up, we kind of cover a lot of different areas in IT, but the 6 main ones I just wanted to point out were infrastructure, security, educational technology, data stewardship, tech support, and strategic planning. Those are kind of some of the cores that we work with for in our department right now. With that, this is how we are structured. When fully staffed, we are at 15 FTE, and this balances leadership, applications, security, administration, and tech support. And with this structure, these are the objectives that we looked at for 24-25. We are aligned with the Engaging Opportunities strategic pillar for 24-25. And inside that pillar, we had one main objective with a few activities that I'll be outlining. The first was improving the use of technology, and that was developing a plan to replace all staff devices in the summer of 2025. Strategically, the Abbotsford School District has kept its technology fleet evergreen by leasing every 4 to 5 years and always replacing technology before it becomes more worth than it's worth to support. This is a fairly major project, and I'm happy to say it went fairly well. A lot of analysis was completed, and an adjustment was made to put more technology into the hands of staff that needed it. So moving from 0.8 FTE to 0.6 FTE added about 100 more computers to our fleet. Now, technology does vary depending on what it is and how the life cycle of it is managed. For example, a desktop computer can be sometimes retained, upgraded, and will last longer versus a laptop that has a consumable battery. So there was lots of decisions made about which technology would need to be replaced and which ones had more life in it. But we're always looking out in the 3 to 5 years to making sure we're not creating technical debt. As far as when the project happened, this majority of it happened during July and August, and that's because we avoided the busyness of year-end and school startup, as it is a fairly disruptive project. You're taking someone's computer away and giving them a new one. The overarching principle about this whole project was ensuring that everyone had the right technology for their role, and it's the same across all schools and sites in the district. In parallel, another activity the department worked on was security. Now, over the past 5 years, next slide, please. Over the next 5 years, cybersecurity has become from an IT problem into an organizational risk. Just last year, at least 5 districts had fairly major cyber incidents that affected them. The K-12 sector has actually become a target due to the wealth of sensitive information that we hold. Often we don't have budgets for the most robust cybersecurity controls, and we do have limited user awareness. But the IT team has been working quite hard, and in the 24-25 year, I'll name 3 things that they did. One was using of AI to disrupt attacks as they were in progress. Second, upgrading and hardening of firewalls. And third, increasing the amount of staff that actually have multi-factor authentication protecting their identities. There was an audit completed, and a number of actions were needed to be taken, and the department did act accordingly, and they now have those in place. Things like account reviews. Over the past 5 years, the district has also done a great job in training of staff, and we need to continue to do so, because the truth is, up to 90% of all cyber incidents are a result of human error. So more that we can invest in training and awareness will help both staff and students in their professional and personal lives. Cybersecurity, the best way to go about it is to avoid best guessing and follow best practices. And the way that we do that in this department is to follow a framework. So the department follows a framework, and we baseline ourselves against that, and we can show that we're continuously improving. Resiliency is one of those areas that I'm sure you've heard this saying, but it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And so the quicker we can bounce back as an organization after a cyber attack or incident, we'll be better off. Some specifics that the team worked on as far as resiliency were ensuring our backups are safe and secure as possible. Our incident response plans were up to date, and we action incidents as quickly as we possibly can before it becomes something worse. That said, let's move to some of the successes for the 24-25 year. I've already mentioned the major project of staff refreshing. That happened, hence the big check mark. Through that project, we did improve the equity of access. More staff now have devices that needed that in their role. Now, I realize this is a strategic pillar on itself, but the team also optimized resources by not buying new equipment for every single person that needed it. We did hold back some, do some upgrades, and we'll have a bit more lifespan, which will save some money. Another advantage of doing this major project every 5 years is you can do wide-scale changes to all devices all at the same time. And that did happen. The devices that were handed out now have improved security. And throughout the last 5 years, all this proactive work has led to an actual reduction in security incidents that happen on a daily basis. A few considerations I'll note. I mentioned when fully staffed, we're at 15 FTE. Since I've started, we're at 13. Next slide, please. And I think being lean is something to be proud of. This department runs very efficiently. However, I just mentioned this as a consideration that when lean and short-staffed, it does limit our capacity to take on new initiatives. The big AI boom, or artificial intelligence, that I'm sure you've heard of, has just created a worldwide shortage in memory and storage. And so all the vendors that we are working with have now advised us that within the next few months, there's going to be some escalation in pricing, just so you're aware. Cybersecurity is one of those things that even 2 years ago, things were a lot different. what would go from an attack into a breach that would be measured in hours 2 years ago now happens in minutes. And so I just mentioned that we're going to need to continue to invest in security and make sure we're prepared. Third-party risks, I mentioned we do a lot of data stewardship, and by data, that can be just regular data or sensitive information. And so it's on us to continue to question our partners and vendors we work with and those that we're sharing that with to make sure that their security posture is up to our standards as well. And finally, business continuity and disaster recovery. We need to continue to tabletop exercise and make sure our documents are up to date. The last thing we want to do is pull out those documents in an actual situation and they're not correct. So that will be continued to be worked on. Switching gears to 25-26. Well, I guess we're already halfway through 25-26. But beyond just the staff devices, we are doing a full review of all technology in the district. So that includes other things like Wingbooks and iPads and in the data center. I mentioned a lot about security already, but basically if we're not enhancing, then we're going to be fall behind. So my last organization, all I did was cybersecurity, and I have a lot of good ideas on how we'll be able to enhance the Abbotsford School District. We had over 8,000 support tickets come into the service desk in 24-25, and analysis needs to be done on those 8,000 tickets to see, are there things we can do proactively to try to reduce that number so that our staff can be freed up to work on other things. A few key department processes that I've noticed need to be improved. One being change management. If we can improve our change management processes, we'll reduce risk both to our department and to the district. And finally, the department's very busy. We have this whirlwind of activity happening, lots of support tickets coming in, but it will be my goal to free up people to work in more of that quadrant 2, or not urgent, but important, to that we'll be able to move things forward. Just a few quick data slides for you. This is the 8,000 support tickets I mentioned. You can see, not surprisingly, a few big booms in the school startup and then after the breaks. And finally, a statistics slide that I'd like to show you. There it is. On just the staff computers and student devices are on the left to see the numbers and how much of the size of the fleet we have. And on the right, we have infrastructure and some application statistics. With that, we're going to transition now into a short video that Communications Department prepared. And you'll notice I'm not in it because I wasn't around, but I hope you enjoy. So please play the video. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Pat Taylor, and I serve as the Senior Manager of Information Technology for the Abbotsford School District. In today's world, technology is integral to nearly every aspect of teaching and learning. Our IT department's mission is to ensure that students and staff have the right tools, that our systems are secure, and that resources are optimized to support the board's vision and strategic plan. Currently, students across the district have access to over 5,000 iPads, 4,500 Winbooks, and 1,400 laptops and desktops. This access enables them to engage in activities such as in-class research, lab coding, and project collaboration, thereby opening doors to learning in every school. The past year has been one of significant growth and progress for our IT team. We successfully refreshed all staff devices, rolling out over 1,800 new laptops and 200 new desktops. Additionally, we introduced an initiative to repurpose previous roadmap devices, allowing employees who previously did not qualify for a device to receive one when appropriate, all while keeping costs under control. We completed our Zero Trust network initiative across the district, ensuring that only authorized users can connect to our systems. In our data center, we achieve full redundancy, ensuring that mission-critical systems remain operational even during power outages and equipment failures. We upgraded our core network management system to prepare for new AI-based tools that will enhance security and improve troubleshooting. And we upgraded the majority of our student computer labs to Windows 11, with the remaining upgrades scheduled for completion this winter. Behind the scenes, our team responded to over 8,000 help desk requests this year alone, proving that focused teamwork and expertise can deliver big results. Securing our systems is one of our highest priorities. Every day, our team works diligently to protect the personal information of students, families, and staff. This year, we expanded multi-factor authentication, an additional login step that helps keep accounts safe even if passwords are compromised. We also broadened and strengthened our incident response and recovery plans, ensuring that we have playbooks to quickly restore services and keep schools running in the event of a system outage or emergency. We conducted vulnerability scans and penetration testing to identify and fix system weaknesses before they can be exploited. Additionally, we expanded monitoring tools like Varonis, which provide better oversight of sensitive data and enable faster response to potential issues. All of this work happens behind the scenes, but its impact is felt in every classroom and workspace. From secure logins to reliable devices, our goal is to make technology simple and dependable, allowing students and staff to focus on what truly matters, teaching and learning. This is how our IT department is bringing the board's strategic plan to life and preparing our district for the future.
So that concludes my presentation, and hope you enjoyed the video. And now I'd like to open it up if anyone had any questions that I could answer.
Well, I'll say thank you, Director Stobie, for your presentation, and we look forward to having you in a starring role in the next video. Let's see, where are we? Trustee Kaler.
Thank you, Chair Peterson, and thank you, Director Stobie, for that presentation. And I just love that video at the end, seeing everything in action. It's just absolutely incredible. No question on my end. Just wanted to give a little comment. It's amazing that we, of course, have all these devices, over 13,000 devices being in use in our district. With we have over 20,000 students, so we have a lot of students that are using devices every single day, getting them prepared for their professional journeys, and of course having the IT support and cybersecurity, and of course using AI and the ways that we can. So just wanted to say thank you for the amazing work, and look forward to seeing more success.
Thank you.
All right, Trustee Wilson.
Thank you so much, Chair Peterson, Director Stobie. I never got to call you that before, so welcome back to our district. It's nice to have you return. So while you may think you're a new face, maybe to some, but not certainly to some others. So welcome back. I only had one question. You said there was something about moving from 0.8 to 0.6 in one of the earlier slides, and now I can't remember what the comment was that I was going to make, but nonetheless, maybe you remember what that is.
Yeah, there was just an adjustment made based on the criteria that a staff would get if they get an assigned device or not. Sometimes it does a little bit depend by role, but prior to this previous roadmap, it was at 0.8 FTE, and it was dropped down to 0.6, meaning it added about 100 more computers to the fleet for staff that didn't have devices before. Okay, and my understanding is that and correct me because I know you will, if I'm wrong, that we've had some concerns where not everybody's had access to a device, and we've had to keep some longer as a result, or restrict their movement, as it were. Is that correct? Yeah, and I believe that was part of the rationale for this. So this actually solved a lot of that, where staff maybe didn't have it and now they have. I would say we would probably analyze this every year, just making sure that 0.6 is the correct number, like even next year. And then if we need to add more, we will. But this did actually add a lot to the fleet that was needed. So I appreciate that. That's good news. Thank you. Yeah.
All right, Trustee Roach.
Thank you, Chair Peterson. Steve, great presentation. Welcome to back to our district. It's kind of mind-boggling to me how many devices there are in, like, I think we have a lot of devices in our home and all these passwords and things like that. And we just went through an iPad update last night, and all the devices are welcoming you back, to the iPad. So I can only imagine the work that your department does. So I don't really have a question specifically to your report. I thought it was excellent. I do have a question that might be geared more for Superintendent Ning. I'm curious to know, I've had quite a few parents and teachers just ask for easier ways to access their child's report card. And I know security is obviously a concern, but I'm wondering if we could have a little initiative to see what can be done just to make it a little easier for parents to access their child's report card. Teachers put so much work into report cards, and I just know there's lots of parents that say, oh, I didn't get to look at it. I just asked my child how they're doing, and that feels unfortunate to me.
Yeah. Thank you for that comment, Trustee Rauch, and absolutely, as a parent myself who's had kids go through the system, and as they get older and the conversations around sharing, how did you do in school? There's an art to that, and as a system, so we recently, in the last couple of years, have shifted towards the provincial system of MyEd BC in terms of recording. We have provisions by the reporting order, but we recognize some of the technical pieces too about going into the portal and accessing can present some challenges depending on the access to technology for parents. So that's something our curriculum department looks at and trying to create avenues, because absolutely communicating student progress to parents is of paramount importance, and we want parents to be involved in the education and the understanding of where to support their child and to work with their teachers. So it's something we will investigate. There are parameters that prevent, I'll say, us delivering that in different formats with privacy, and certainly some of the things that Director Stobie talked about in his report apply to some of the restrictions that are in place for us to be able to get certain personal information pieces to families, but it's certainly something we strive for in terms of working with our community, our parents, to make sure that they have ready access. And again, we would always encourage and certainly promote parents having as much contact with parents to not just wait until the report card periods, but ongoing conversations around their child's education. But certainly we continue to investigate ways in which we can safely get that information to parents. That's not going to create a privacy issue.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Trustee Rye.
Thank you. Chair Peterson. Welcome back, Director Stobie. Awesome presentation. And like Trustee Rauch was just saying, I was just blown away with like 1,467 access points in the district. That's a lot of access points. But my question is, we have about 13,000 of our own school district devices online, but it's my understanding that students can bring their own devices and get on. So like at a typical day, would you have any idea how many devices are hooked onto our system, and that your team is looking after and making them all run? So
yes, great question, Trustee Rye. So we do have 1,467 access points, as you mentioned. Schools right now for BYOD, let's call it, some are optional. Not all schools are doing it. There is a process for them to get that device onto the Wi-Fi to keep it secure. So they need to provide things like the MAC address and the device, and then the teacher will sign it and the parent signs it, and then they can connect to the Wi-Fi unless there's a medical exemption. But yeah, the total number of devices we see on a daily basis, it is in obviously the tens of thousands, where we have lots of activity. Even things like from facilities like IoT devices are all connecting to the Wi-Fi. So The Abbotsford School District has a very good, robust system. Basically, one access point in every classroom, which allows things like a classroom cart to be rolled in and all 30 working all at the same time. So,
Wow. Thank you. And to you and your team, amazing job. Thank you for doing it.
Trustee Kandarajwan.
Thank you, Chair Peterson. Thank you, Director Stobie. Welcome back. I appreciated the presentation, not only from a professional perspective, but also as a parent in the public school system. My kids, when they forget their devices, which it does happen, it's not a struggle because there's always a device that they can use, and they've appreciated the support, and there's been no concerns from that end too. So just wanted to give you that feedback.
great. Thank you.
And I'm going to, maybe I'll end there. I noticed in your presentation a subtle, but I heard it about staffing. I mean, for what you do you have enough staff? And, I can predict the answer, but tell me about your staffing needs, if any.
Sure. I use the word lean because it's a small number, which if we're fully staffed and everyone's working at, out at 100%, it works pretty well with good process. If you compare us to a few other districts, like they would say, like, how do you do this? The problem I was saying is basically when we get some leaves that do happen. So we're getting, a mat leave is coming back next month. That'll be awesome. But that kind of thing happens and it is difficult. So our ticket counts kind of go up. But I couldn't tell you, like, if we added 3 more staff, we'd be in an ideal state. That analysis I still have to do, and I understand there is a process for asking for budget enhancements, which include additional staffing will be coming up. So that will be my time to go to bat for what is the right number. But I appreciate your question.
Thank you for that response. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. Welcome back and thank you. And as I say, we'll see you in a starring role in the next video. We appreciate your presentation.
Okay, thanks very much, and I hope to meet you all in person soon.
All right. Superintendent Name, you've got the next one as well.
Thank you, Chair Peterson. It's my pleasure to welcome Deputy Superintendent Pete Nooch, who will be speaking to the board tonight on the operational plan and progress report for the elementary school. So with that, I will throw it over to Deputy Superintendent Nooch.
Thank you very much, and good evening, everyone. I'm pleased to provide an elementary strategic plan progress report to the board at tonight's meeting. And unlike Steve, I did have the pleasure of being the star of my own video, and you'll get to see that near the end of the presentation as well. So if I can get the next slide, please, I'll just jump right in. So as you're aware, the past few years have seen some significant changes in relation to members and positions on the senior team. And for the elementary team, this has meant that the past couple of years have had multiple iterations of reporting and support structures. And as we work to stabilize people in positions through a bit of restructuring, I've landed in the very enviable position of having the opportunity to guide and support the elementary level. This restructuring has streamlined communication and reporting pathways and has allowed us to come together in new and more focused ways in support of our elementary learners and the board's strategic plan. We work very closely with various other departments to provide wraparound, comprehensive supports for our elementary learners, and many of the initiatives that I'll share with you today reflect the collective work of many teams across all 31 of our elementary sites. So, who are we as an elementary team? I've already mentioned that we have 31 schools, but I also want to highlight that we have roughly 8,700 students that attend elementary with us each day. 2,700 roughly of those students are English language learners. Roughly 800 of those students are identified Indigenous students. 900 roughly students with disabilities or diverse abilities. And we also work very closely, with families that care deeply and want the best possible educational experience for their children. We have teachers, support staff, administrators who are committed, skilled, and care deeply about the students that they serve. And I would say, being fairly new to this district, I would say diversity is our strength. And if I can get the next slide, please. So our work connects to the board strategic plan in many ways, most directly through the student success pillar, where our effort towards student success in literacy and numeracy, as well as our work towards student well-being and belonging, are reflected. Next slide, please. And additionally, our work toward increasing intentional opportunities for student and family engagement is reflected in the engaging opportunities pillar of the board strategic plan. So when we think about who are our learners, we work with a diverse group of young people from all over the world who speak more than 50 first languages at home. We work with Indigenous, Métis, and Inuit students from many parts of BC and across Canada. We serve many students with disabilities and diverse abilities, and we also work with children and youth in care. This complexity can be seen in any of our classrooms, and while it creates rich learning environments, it also creates complexity. On the next slide, I'll walk you through how that complexity is reflected in the data from the Early Development Instrument. Next slide, please. So this slide introduces the Early Development Instrument, or EDI. And the EDI is a helpful tool that gives us a clear picture of how kindergarten children are developing across the province and in our district. It looks at 5 key areas of early childhood development: physical health and well-being, social competence, emotional maturity, language and cognitive development, and communication skills and general knowledge. The important thing to remember is that the EDI is not a test for individual students. It's a population-level measure completed by kindergarten teachers once they've had time to get to know their students well. The results are then aggregated to show trends at the district and provincial level. So this data helps us understand the complexity and strengths of children coming into our system each year. It also gives us a strong foundation for planning early interventions, supports, and partnerships that directly respond to the needs we're seeing across these 5 developmental domains. So on the next slide, we'll look at what this data tells us specifically for Abbotsford during the most recent reporting cycle. Next slide, please. So on this slide, we're looking at Abbotsford's Early Development Instrument results for kindergarten students in what we call Wave 8, which is just the last iteration of the testing. And this reflects data from just over 1,000 kindergarten children in our district. So what stands out is that a notable proportion of children are entering school already experiencing developmental vulnerabilities. 18% of kindergarten students were vulnerable on the physical health and well-being scale. This includes factors like readiness for school, gross and fine motor skills, and physical independence. On the social competence scale, 22% of children were identified as vulnerable. And this relates to cooperation, respectful interactions, and the ability to follow routines and manage responsibilities in a classroom setting. We see another 22% vulnerable in emotional maturity, which includes areas such as self-regulation, empathy, and managing anxious or impulsive behaviors. These numbers provide important context for our work. They highlight the complexity of learners entering our classrooms and point to where we need early intervention, strong relationships, and targeted supports, and how those can make a meaningful difference. And as we move to the next slide, we'll continue the picture by examining the remaining EDI scales. So here we see that 15% of our kindergarten students were vulnerable on the language and cognitive development scale. And this includes foundational literacy and numeracy skills, memory, and early understanding of numbers and print. Next, we see 20% of children were vulnerable in communication skills and general knowledge. The scale reflects a child's ability to clearly express their ideas, understand others, tell a story, and engage in imaginative play. Strong skills in this area are closely tied to early literacy development and overall school readiness. Perhaps most importantly, at the bottom of the slide, you'll notice that 40% of children in Abbotsford were vulnerable on one or more of the 5 EDI scales. This is a key indicator because it reflects overall developmental vulnerability rather than a single area challenge. It also represents an increase from the previous measure when the number was 37% for Abbotsford. So this tells us that a significant portion of our incoming learners require additional support across multiple domains of development. It reinforces the importance of early learning, family engagement, literacy and numeracy initiatives that we have underway, and it helps shape our planning as we work to support our elementary learners. Next slide, please.
So from here, I'd like to rewind the tape a bit and look at some of the work that the elementary team was focused on in the 24-25 school year, specifically in numeracy and literacy. On this slide, we're focusing on our main literacy goal for 24-25, which is improving student success in literacy. A major focus last year was the development and implementation of our literacy framework and continued support of to strengthen foundational reading skills. We also piloted the Acadian Screener in 4 schools to identify students needing early support. We updated our K-8 literacy assessments to better align with current research and provide clearer data for teachers. In addition, we piloted the ACT diagnostic tool in 3 schools to fill gaps left by previous assessments. And finally, we reviewed and updated literacy resources across classrooms to ensure teachers have access to high-quality, evidence-based materials. Together, these steps are helping us build strong literacy foundations and supporting all learners in a better way. And when we look to the next slide, this slide highlights several successes from our literacy work last year. We strengthened early reading skills by reinforcing explicit sequential phonics instruction and expanding the use of diagnostic reading assessments, including the Acadian Screener, which I mentioned earlier, and which the ministry has now mandated across the province. Our culture of reading projects grew to 11 schools, each designing initiatives to build a stronger love of reading. We also updated classroom and school literacy resources, which I've mentioned previously, and that ensures that teachers have current, high-quality materials. And finally, we continue to focus on phonological awareness, a key predictor of early reading achievement. Together, these efforts are helping us build stronger, more consistent literacy foundations across our elementary schools. Next slide, please. So now we'll jump into the data on literacy for grade 4 students in our district. And some members of the board have already seen this slide as I shared it at the December Ed Committee meeting. The top of this slide is data related to the grade 4 FSAs in literacy. The first number shows the district percentage for students who are on track or extending, and the second number is the same number for the province. So that's why they're coming in pairs, the numbers at the top. Before diving in, there are a few things to consider when we look at this data. First, we have a very high participation rate in our district, which allows us to consider our district to be fairly accurate. That's not the case in many districts across the province. We include the majority of students with diverse needs. Again, that's not the case for many districts across the province. And a reminder that everybody here knows because they lived through it, but we had a pandemic in 2020 and a flood in 2021, which certainly impacted student achievement. When looking at the all students data, the line across the top, you'll see that over the past 3 years, you can see that the district numbers pretty much mirror the provincial numbers. You can also see that in 24-25, there was a drop in the percentage of students on track or extending both provincially and in our district. So while we saw a decline in scores here in Abbotsford, so did districts across the province. When looking at the data for Indigenous students, that's the second line, you'll see a general decrease over time at both provincial and at the district level. In the past 3 years, Indigenous students in Abbotsford are scoring above the provincial average by nearly 10%, but remain below the percentages for all students above. When looking at the FSA data for students with disabilities or diverse abilities, which is that third line, you'll see that students in Abbotsford are scoring consistently below the provincial average. A reminder here that we again have consistently high participation rates, which may influence this number in relation to the provincial average. The bottom piece of this slide shows report card percentages for students who are proficient or extending on the final report card for the 3 groups of learners for the past 5 years. And here you can see a general decline in all populations over time. You can also see that Indigenous students and students with disabilities and diverse abilities are significantly lower than the percentages for all students across the board. And I'll get you to please move to the next slide where I visualize this data for you, a little bit maybe easier to look at. And so just to orient you on the slide here, the slide takes the data from the students here in Abbotsford and visualizes it, like I mentioned. And so the way that it's laid out is you have all resident students on the left, Indigenous students are on the top right, students with disabilities or diverse abilities are on the bottom right, And I'll give you just a moment to look at that slide, as the visualization might be a little easier to see. So later in the presentation, I'll walk you through some of the work underway for this year in relation to literacy for our elementary learners. So I'll ask now for the next slide. So on this slide, we shift our focus to numeracy and our objective for the 2024-2025 school year, increasing student success in numeracy. A major part of this work has been the development of local numeracy assessments, specifically the fact fluency assessment and the number sense interview. These tools help teachers better understand where students are in their mathematical thinking. Fact fluency supports teachers in identifying the next instructional steps related to addition and multiplication, while the number sense interview helps us see how students are thinking about numbers and operations more broadly. Another key area of focus was the district-wide engagement in creating our numeracy framework, which was no small task. This framework is helping us build consistent, research-aligned approaches to numeracy instruction across all elementary schools. Together, these efforts, our local assessments, and our emerging framework are giving teachers clearer data and more focused strategies to support students as they build number sense, confidence, and computational fluency. Next slide, please. So the slide highlights several successes from our numeracy work this year. We strengthened, pardon me, I'm having a computer issue here. So I've already mentioned the creation of the numeracy framework, but also the introduction of diagnostic numeracy assessments, fact fluency, and number sense interview, and those have both been very well received by the field in terms of their ability to support teachers in doing the work that they need to be doing to assess students. Also, the elementary residencies with helping teachers with a focus on number sense and computational fluency was a huge success for us in supporting teachers in their classrooms, in their schools, and working with the students that they have with them each day. Next slide, please. Apologies, everybody. I'm having a freezing computer. Just give me one moment.
This might be me. 1 second, Pete. I'm just trying to see what's going on.
So can everyone see numeracy? Oh, it's flipping now. It wasn't there for a second.
There it is. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, and if you go one forward, apologies, friends. Oh, now we're too far ahead. If you can go back.
I think you're on this one.
Yeah, I think I'd like slide 12.
Sorry.
Oh, no, sorry, 16.
Sorry, I can't see the numbers.
So I'm looking for data highlights, the grid for numeracy.
Okay, 1 second. Data highlights.
Forward. And
Huh. That's not it.
okay, go back.
I'm going to have to stop sharing. There's something gone wrong with mine, I think. And I'll bring it back up. 1 second, please.
Absolutely.
A pause in the presentation. By the way, I mentioned it to a few people. Our Prime Minister made a speech at the summit that he attended, and I think it's worthy of everybody to listen to that speech. And I'm not trying to get political in any way. I just thought his manner and what he said seemed to be very Canadian-ish, if there's such a thing. Anyhow, let's get back to the business.
If you can go one more slide, perfect. Thank you very much, Carissa.
So I don't know what happened there.
That's all good. It was it wobbled a little bit earlier and then it came back for me and then it just went, yeah, anyway, okay. So picking up where we left off, folks, sorry for the commercial break there. So now we'll jump into the data on numeracy for grade 4 students in our district. So again, the top of this slide is the data related to the grade 4 FSAs in numeracy. First number in the pair again shows the district percentage for students who are on track or extending. And the second number is the same number for the province. When looking at the all students data, that's that line across the top, you'll see that with the exception of 23-24, students in Abbotsford score below the provincial average, which has stayed relatively stable over the past 4 years. When looking at the data for Indigenous students, that's the second line, you'll see a general decrease over time at both the provincial and the district levels. And in the past 3 years, you'll see that Indigenous students in Abbotsford are relatively consistent with provincial averages, and in 23-24 scored above the provincial averages by nearly 5%. When looking at the FSA data for students with disabilities or diverse abilities, which is the third line, we see that students are scoring consistently below the provincial averages. That gap is narrowing in the past 2 years. And the bottom piece of this slide shows report card percentages for students who are proficient or extending on the final report card for the 3 groups of learners for the past 5 years. And here you can see, again, a general decline in all populations over time. Indigenous students and students with disabilities and diverse abilities are significantly lower than the percentages for all students across the board. And if we flip to the next slide, again, you'll see that data visualized in a way that might be easier to look at. And so here we have all resident students on the left, we have Indigenous students on the top right again, and we have students with disabilities or diverse abilities on the bottom right. And I'll give you a moment to have a look at this slide. So while we are seeing some success, as I shared earlier, in both literacy and numeracy with some of the initiatives that we've undertaken in past years, the data clearly shows that we still have much work to do. So what are we doing? If we look forward to the next slide. In the next section of the presentation, I'd like to share some of the work that is underway and will continue through this year and beyond. We'll start with literacy and then move to numeracy before exploring what is happening in other areas. I think it's important to highlight here that much of the work that is underway this year is co-sponsored by various departments, including curriculum, Indigenous education, and the LSS teams. And so while I get to present this work to the board today, there are many hands behind the scenes working to support these initiatives. If I can get the next slide, please. Oh, apologies, one back. Thank you. So on this slide, we're looking ahead at our literacy plans for the 25-26 school year, which are well underway. And so a major focus moving forward for us is increasing data fluency at both the school and classroom levels. And this means ensuring principals, vice principals, and teachers are confident in assessing, interpreting, and using literacy data to guide instruction. And we've noticed there's a bit of a gap here. We've begun this work through in-service sessions on EdPlan Insight, and this work will continue throughout the year. We're also working to implement data-driven literacy instruction more consistently. This includes supporting teachers in using data to plan targeted lessons, guide small group instruction, and monitor progress over time. Schools will embed more data and more intentionally into school improvement plans, staff meetings, and team discussions, and that work has already started. Another major area of focus is to deepen the understanding and implementation of the literacy framework. Administrators take part in the Leading for Learning in Literacy series with the curriculum team, and that one of those meetings was actually this morning, funnily enough. And while teachers will have ongoing professional learning opportunities connected to best practices in assessment and literacy instruction. And as I mentioned before, this work continues to be grounded in cross-departmental collaboration, with each of the curriculum, learning support services, and Indigenous education teams co-sponsoring initiatives that will continue to share district literacy success and grow on the things that are already in place and beginning to make an impact for students. Next slide, please. So as we look ahead to 25-26, our focus in numeracy is centered on building stronger, more consistent instructional practices across all elementary schools. And here you'll see some alignment with the work undertaken in literacy. Again, a key priority is developing greater confidence and fluency with numeracy data. We want school leaders and classroom teachers to be able to interpret student learning information quickly and use it to make informed decisions about instruction. The goal is to make numeracy progress a regular part of how teams plan and reflect through the year, and we have some gaps here. Another important focus is the district-wide implementation of the numeracy framework, which was developed last year. This framework provides clarity around effective numeracy instruction and helps bring coherence to classroom practices. Teachers will continue to receive targeted professional learning tied to the framework, and administrators will deepen their leadership through the ongoing Leading for Learning in Numeracy series. Cross-departmental collaboration plays an important role here as well. And all of this positions us to strengthen numeracy learning across the system and give students the skills and confidence they need to thrive. Next slide. This slide highlights two broader priorities for the year ahead outside of literacy and numeracy. First, we're working to strengthen engagement with students and families. This includes partnering with communications, curriculum, LSS, and Indigenous education again, reviewing parent survey feedback, and sharing effective practices across schools. Secondly, we're focusing on creating welcoming, inclusive learning environments. We'll continue to evaluate student voice and elevate that voice, using student learning survey data to guide school planning, and offering professional learning on social emotional practices. Cross-department collaboration will support schools in building these environments. And together, these actions help ensure students and families feel connected, supported, and valued. And if I can have the next slide, please. The part of the presentation that everyone I'm sure has been waiting for. We now have a short video walking through some of the work that's been happening over the past little while in elementary.
Hello, my name is Pete Newage. I'm the Deputy Superintendent with the Abbotsford School District, and I'm pleased to share an update on the work and progress within the elementary level in our district. Across 31 elementary schools, we serve more than 8,700 students. Our learners and their families come from a rich tapestry of cultural backgrounds and speak over 50 first languages. Each student brings unique perspectives that enrich our classrooms and allow us to learn from one another. We support Indigenous students, children and youth in care, and students with disabilities and diverse abilities. Alongside many strengths, students also bring learning needs that are becoming more complex each year. We see this complexity early. The most recent data from the Early Development Instrument shows that 40% of kindergarten students in Abbotsford are vulnerable in at least one of the 5 key developmental areas measured, including physical health and well-being, social competence, emotional maturity, language and cognitive development, and communication skills and general knowledge. This data helps us understand where students need support and reinforces how important strong, intentional programming is in the early years. Looking back at the 2024-2025 school year, our focus was improving student success in literacy and numeracy.
I. Do you feel your mouth closing a little bit?
In literacy, schools strengthened instruction by focusing more intentionally on explicit sequential phonics as part of a balanced literacy approach. Teachers made greater use of reading assessments, including a pilot of the Acadian Screener, to better understand where students are in their literacy learning and respond early when support was needed. Many schools also work to build a strong culture of reading through school-wide initiatives and updated classroom resources.
12 tens has a value of how much?
In numeracy, we made progress by creating a district numeracy framework to guide math instruction. Teachers began using new diagnostic assessments to better understand students' number sense and basic math skills. Helping Teacher residencies also supported teachers in strengthening math instruction with a focus on helping students build confidence and understanding in math. Our focus is on continuing and deepening this work in the 2025-26 school year. In both literacy and numeracy, we are placing a greater emphasis on using data effectively at the classroom and school level. This means using assessment information more intentionally to guide instruction, respond to student needs, and track progress over time.
We will continue to strengthen the implementation of both the literacy and numeracy frameworks to support consistent, high-quality teaching across all elementary schools. Beyond academics, our work at the elementary level is centered on students' earliest school experiences. These years are foundational as children build curiosity, confidence, and a sense of belonging. Creating classrooms that are safe, welcoming, and engaging helps ensure students feel excited to come to school and are ready to learn. This includes intentional opportunities to connect with students and families and to build strong, supportive relationships from the beginning of a child's school journey. At the center of this work is our commitment to student success. We want every elementary learner to feel supported and challenged as they grow, academically, socially, and emotionally. Through strong collaboration across schools and departments, we are focused on creating learning environments where students can thrive today while building a strong foundation for the future. Thought you were going to do it again, Carissa. I was
That's
a little
right.
worried there.
The sequel. Thank you, Deputy Superintendent Nuge.
And with
Again, a
that,
great
folks,
presentation, and I'm sure we'll have lots of good questions for you. Trustee Roach.
Thank you. Yeah, Pete, great presentation, excellent video. I just wanted to say how, I mean, we all have put a real emphasis on literacy and numeracy, and especially in the early years, and we see that in the work you're doing. Sometimes people think that the higher grades are more complex because the material is complex, but I would argue that the work you're doing at the elementary school level and that teachers are doing for the younger kids is actually more important because it creates that foundation and that love for school that kids hopefully will develop. So thank you for all that. I made a few notes here. Some of the slip in performance is concerning, certainly. And it's great to see all the work that you're doing to mitigate that. Hopefully we're connecting the work done academically in the schools with real world topics. That's something that we heard through, it was with older students, but in the district planning meetings, we really heard that students find the topics much more interesting when there's like a book that they can share with their peers and they're familiar with, or numeracy that connects to something in the world that they're interested in. And I'm sure that you're doing lots of that work. The work with engaging students and families, I think, is vital and great. Parents are so busy these days, so the more we can get them to do work at home is good. And the only question I have, and this is an important one, is do you feel like we're supporting you enough as a board with the resources that you have in your department and that teachers have in the classroom?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's a big question. I appreciate it. Well, there's a couple of parts that I think about when you ask the question. The first is that I am still somewhat new to the system and still learning my team and learning the ins and outs of each of our schools. What I will say is that, there will always be an appetite for more. And I think that, certainly there are pockets of resources that we could continue to improve and work that we could continue to do to support staff around sort of the more conversation. A lot of the work that we've been focused on, though, in relation to that is how do we exchange and do better with what we have in terms of best practice, expertise, and that kind of thing. And our focus really has been on how do we connect folks around the great things that are happening in schools, because while the data doesn't show that we are on an upward trajectory, my experience in meeting schools and seeing classrooms and teachers and principals and vice principals is there are some fantastic things happening. And so as we look at the literacy and numeracy frameworks, it then becomes how do we bring those things to life in a real way, empower the teachers who are doing fantastic things in their classrooms, and then connect those experiences to what resources do you need to continue to do that work in an even better way. And I think given that we're at the front end of the literacy framework and even more at the front end of the numeracy framework, the system adjusting to those tools and sort of that becoming the culture of learning for us will take just a little bit of time. So yes, we could always use more. What that looks like, I think, is going to be dependent school by school, classroom by classroom, but really it's about how do we bring those things to life? And as we're doing that, what are the things that come up and how do we remove barriers? And that might be through resources as we do that work.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. You have my optimism as well. I've through contact and other reports and your work, I really do feel optimistic too that things are going to improve in the years ahead. So, great work, and thank you for that.
Thank you,
Trustee Kaler.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Deputy Superintendent Nuge, for that presentation. And I loved when you said there's a lot of work to do. So what are we doing, right? Because that's, of course, what we look forward to. Now, over 30% of elementary students are ELL students. And when we see the reports that over 4 years ago, we saw percentage in 60s, right, for report cards, and now it's not even at 50. Now, do you believe seeing the growth in ELL students is impacting those percentages with report cards, or what do you think is happening there?
It's a big question. What I would say is there are lots of things that are impacting student achievement, and I think that to say it's one thing or another, I think is a little bit reductive to the overall where we are. So if I think about complexity, I think about our community being richly diverse, families from all over the world. We're one of the most diverse communities in Canada, and I think that's a strength for us, but it also creates some challenges. We also have some challenges around, staffing, replacement of staffing, teacher turnover, staff turnover, which creates some challenges for us in the classroom. So there's a bunch of other things. There's commuting demands for time and attention at home, parents needing to work multiple jobs to do what they can to support their families, which all of us can completely understand and appreciate. And so really, I don't see it being an issue, with ELL students as a challenge. I think the challenge is that the world around us is changing and becoming more complex. And our work as a system is to adapt and do what we can to support those complexities changing. And I think that we're sort of maybe a little bit behind the change, and we're working to sort of do some work to keep caught up and to continue the work that we're doing. But I really don't see it as one group or one thing that's contributing to this. I see it as a complex piece, and it really will involve bringing all teams within the district together in support of student achievement in ways that I'm beginning to see that we're doing now, which is exciting, but we have a lot of work to do.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Trustee White.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Superintendent Nuge. Yeah, I'm concerned just looking at this data. I understand that there's anecdotal evidence that is more positive, but just strictly looking at that data, when we were looking at the charts, it's quite concerning. If we were, the board of Apple, and we were looking at that kind of charts when it comes to our bottom line, we would be sounding alarms. And I know, of course, it's not the same here. We don't have control over everything in terms of curriculum and so forth. And you noted the complex world and the complex classroom that does, I guess, contribute to this. We could talk about this all day, but I wanted to narrow in on just the scores of Indigenous students. So looking at the literacy, for example, 76% of Indigenous students of grade 4 aren't proficient in reading. So that's quite concerning to me. And I've raised this in previous years, and of course that we have different staff and everything, but the numbers continue to go down. So I guess my curiosity is I love to hear about the data-driven stuff, but can you give us an example of anything we're going to do different with our Indigenous students as a result of these stats moving forward?
Yep. Thank you for the question. I appreciate it. So there's a number of things that have either begun to happen or in the very early stages of happening and coming soon to a theater near you around the question. So I'll highlight, I think I've got maybe 4 things to highlight here that I think might be interesting for the board to hear. So the first comes down to a partnership between the elementary team, the curriculum team, and the Indigenous education team. And it's around resources specific to supporting Indigenous learners in classrooms. But with that, it's also some instruction for ISW's classroom teachers on how to do some instructional pieces to go with those resources. The resources are called Under One Sun, and they match up with the PM benchmarks that we're already doing in class. The book sets are available, and also parents can borrow those to continue the conversation at home. So that's a new initiative that we're undertaking this year, which is fantastic. We're also doing some work with the literacy helping teachers, working to teach literacy games to all elementary school and middle school ISWs, Indigenous support workers. I believe they met last week. I might be off by a week there to look at what that looks like, to give them some instruction that they can take back to their home schools, continue the work that's happening in classrooms in small group and individual sessions. And that's an important part for us because they've created resources that align with common literacy struggles. So it's actually targeted. So where are students struggling? How do we support those struggles? And how do we continue the supports in another way? That's a new initiative for us. And that's going to be an ongoing piece where the initial training is happening, and then we're coming back together to look at how is the experience going in schools? How do we update the training 2 to 3 times per year? There's some work being done right now to connect with some math and Mathically First Nations about some parent evenings specific to literacy, leaving some resources with them, and how to connect that school-home reading literacy piece, and that's an important part for us. And this is one, they're all exciting to me, but the next piece is one that I'm really excited about because it's very targeted and strategic. We're doing some alignment through the Ed Plan program that you've all heard of, where the curriculum department is reaching out directly to schools to talk about Indigenous students who are struggling with literacy. So we're pulling the data, we're having a look at it, we're individually going through each student and looking at which students are struggling and what supports are available that we can provide to the school to continue that conversation. So it's targeted, it's individualized, and it's collaborative between those departments. And I think that's going to be a really powerful one for us. That's a very new initiative for us, and it's exciting. And the last thing I'll say here is we have in elementary, but also in middle and secondary, we've got Indigenous education working groups. There's actually a meeting tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. that I'm going to with the elementary group to look at how can we share best practice between schools in support of Indigenous learners. And that's a construct that's new over the past year and a bit. So that might give some information for the question. Happy to answer any other questions there.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's a pretty thorough answer and best answer I've heard in a few years. So I think that maybe my colleague, Trustee Rauch's optimism is warranted. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Yes. Great. Trustee Wilson.
Yes, thank you, Chair Peterson. First, congratulations, Deputy Superintendent Pete Nuge.
Thank you.
Congratulations and welcome into your new role. Couple questions and a couple of comments, but on page 3 of 31 of the report in the agenda about our department, we talk about 31 schools, 8,700 students, 2,700 ELL students, 800 Indigenous students, 900 students with disabilities or diverse abilities, noting that diversity is our strength. I actually have to say I'm really pleased that we are not Apple because we don't put out widgets. We're not a corporation. We actually look at these students as individuals, and they are. It's for me, it's always been about each student. How do we do the best and what's right for each student? I recognize that there is some overlap with students with disabilities or diverse abilities across Indigenous or ELL. I recognize that. I do want clarification before I continue that those are that there is an overlap contained in this data, and we're not actually okay. So we're not at half the students in elementary are in one of those sectors. There could be a crossover, and so that number of students is actually fewer.
Yes.
Okay.
So a student may be in 2 categories there. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So which has always been the case, and given the work that's been done in this district, and then a lot of other districts had situations with COVID. We are a jurisdiction that came back to school far earlier than anywhere else in the world, including our own country. So that was very much a positive. And I have spoke about FSAs where the provincial benchmark is not the one we want to compare ourselves to. I know that's a hat tip to our board chair, but I do know that it does set a trend. And when we look at that trend, we also have not quite the same trend, but we also had a flood and we had students that were significantly displaced. And given the information that we know about our students and how everybody's working hard to bring all levels of learning and student achievement back up to where we might have been pre-COVID, I just want to congratulate you and the elementary schools on the work that you are doing. I recognize that the analogy is that last 10 yards, when we need to get down that last 10 yards, it's often the hardest one to get to. And so bringing those results back up is a labor of love, and a big shout out to our elementary schools. So thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Cantor-Rajwa.
Thank you, Chair Peterson. Deputy Superintendent Pete Nuge, I appreciate all the work and the efforts provided to the students to be successful. I think you kind of answered my question, but I'm going to still ask it anyways, in case you want to add anything. I agree with it that many challenges that students have to have the support during and after school, but you did mention that it's about trying to adapt fast enough. I'm just curious, how do you think we could adapt more effectively with all the challenges that you stated?
You're asking great questions here tonight, folks. What I would say to that is I would say that a large part of the work that we are undertaking is really about accessing the expertise that we have access to within our district. And so for me, I see the work as connecting folks across roles, across schools, across classrooms to share great practice. And so the acceleration towards the thing that you're talking about is really about how do we empower folks to continue to do work outside of their role and across those boundaries, whether it's classroom, school, role, etc. And so as an elementary group, we've done a lot of work with the elementary principals and vice principals, looking at how we can connect schools, how we can share best practice, because really I think that in order to be a nimble system that can adapt to the realities that we are facing, it can't be one person, it can't be 10 people, it has to be the system. And so by building a culture of adaptability and that sort of, I use the term co-sponsorship, where we're all connected to student outcomes, not only K to 5, but K to 12. And so it becomes about how do we get the system working together in concert in support of students. And I think that really is our work, because we have fantastic people doing fantastic things. And now it's how do we share that and how do we build on that?
Okay, thank you for that.
And Trustee Roach, I'm going to give you the second to the last question comment.
Okay, thank you. One thing came to mind as the other questions were asked here, and yeah, I was just curious to know if we're tracking attendance. In one of the provincial meetings we went to recently, there was some talk about attendance and how connected attendance can be to outcomes for students. So I'm curious to know if we're tracking, and potentially in the 3 groups if we're tracking, and if we'd find any correlation, for example, between attendance and outcomes, in which we could then focus on attendance, right?
Yeah, it's a fantastic question, and it's certainly something that we're starting to look at. We haven't done a deep dive there yet. We do have the data. We do have the ability to access attendance data. At this point here, we're not at the stage where we're digging into that, but it certainly is on the list of things to get into the mix here. Certainly there'll be a correlation between student attendance, student achievement, and how we can support families and students and welcome them when they get to school. And so that's certainly something that we're looking at, or will be looking at in the future very shortly.
Great, thank you. And great answers to all the questions. Well done.
Thank you.
And I'm going to finish by saying the presentations and the answers to our questions. Really, I'm going to share the optimism that Trustee White and Trustee Roach have shown, and I know the rest of us show towards moving forward. And we thank you very much for the great work you're doing on our behalf.
Yeah, on behalf of the elementary team.
On behalf of kids.
Yeah, and on behalf of the elementary team, we want to thank you for your support, because it is it's very helpful for us to know that there's support available and you're asking questions around what you can do to support the work that's undergoing. So I really appreciate that.
All right, thank you. I'm looking at our next item, and I'll probably take that. Myself and Trustee Wilson and Deputy Superintendent Newich went to the last Indigenous Educational Council meeting. And interesting, I think we all learned a piece of something from there, and we're all gonna share a little bit about some of the information from that. And I'm gonna start with that. And something that I didn't know is that Indigenous resources in libraries have been placed with the Dewey Decimal System and misplaced, and that was noted by Indigenous folks and so on, that inappropriately replaced catalog given that system. So what do you know? They've done a great job in moving that to the Brian Deere library system, and where they can more accurately be placed into whatever categories, and so that's something that's new for us. And I believe that's happened in all of our schools, something new. Trustee Wilson, you were going to add something as well.
Yes, thank you. Chair Peterson and myself, as trustees, attend the Indigenous Education Council. I love this committee. It's council. And neither Chair Peterson nor I are actual official voting members, but we attend as guests, and it really is a privilege to attend. At our last meeting, we did learn that with the affordability fund that was provided to our Indigenous Education Department resulted of $7,000 resulted in winter gear for our students, $5,400. And that points to a higher need than probably some folks might recognize. Second is that we had student fees and field trips be supported at about $1,300, and transportation a mere $300. So it is really reassuring to know that we can reach out through the affordability fund, which may not be with us too much longer, but to reach out with that affordability fund to be able to support our Indigenous students and their families. It's just, we know that students coming to school who are clothed and fed and whatnot are feeling supported, excuse me, feeling supported means that they can actually learn better. And I'm hoping that addresses the question I heard about what are some of the things we're doing, because that is just as important as some of the other work, because if we can't get them into the classroom and they're not warm and fed, they're not going to learn as much as we would anticipate. So shout out to how that money was dispersed.
Thank you, Trustee Wilson. Deputy Superintendent Newich.
Yeah, and so the last piece from the IEC, the last update was an overview of the past and upcoming cultural events and the impact that these important events have on students feeling connected and safe through their educational journey. The IEC was thankful that these events were continuing, so I just wanted to highlight some of those with some dates. So the first is that there was a family gathering at the Indigenous Education Center on December 15th. I had the good fortune of being a part of that. We had roughly 200 families attend for an evening. It was just a great time seeing families come together, share a meal, and that was really well received. And we have some upcoming events as well. We have grade 5 drum groups throughout the month of February. We have the role model ceremony on April the 16th. Invitations will be sent out to trustees for that event. We have the grade 8 canoe trips in late May as well. And then we also have the Indigenous Grad Awards, and that's June 10th at Abbey Arts. And again, invitations will be sent to trustees for that event. And then the final event that was highlighted at the IEC was the National Indigenous Peoples Day celebration. That's at June 5th, and that's the event that is at Mill Lake Park. And again, trustees will be given an invite for that event as well. And that concludes the update from the IEC.
Well, I'm just going to add one thing with that. If anybody is interested in going on the grade 8 canoe trip, I know that some of us have, and it's what a great opportunity that is. And you're welcome to go. if you're interested in going, get a hold of the Indigenous Education Department, and they'll find you a spot in the canoe. All right, Trustee Kanarajwa.
Thank you, Chair Peterson. I just wanted to say I got to be a part of the role model submissions, and it was such a great process. So it's pretty amazing to see what we're doing in our community to support our students.
Thank you for that. Okay, we're moving into operations, and in case
I have my hand up.
I'm
Chair
sorry,
Peterson.
Trustee White, I missed you.
Yeah, thank you for the report from the IEC. Just, I'm curious about what their take is on the declining scores in literacy and numeracy. That must be something they talk about a lot. So, like, what have you guys heard from them? What's their concern? What are they suggesting?
And I know I can just speak to one of the issues. They've talked about attendance and their concerns around that. I might have to. How about if I get back to you on that after our next meeting?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. I will most certainly do that.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Because I know they would share the concerns. I know we talk about it fairly regularly, but I'm not. I'll have to get back to you specifically on how it's been addressed. Okay. Into operations. And in case anybody isn't aware, next October, we're into an election, and we have a duty and a legal obligation to pass a trustee election procedures bylaw. So I'll
move to approve election bylaw 2026, and Chair Peterson is this year.
Yeah, did I say next year?
Next year.
Oh my goodness. Okay, time is flying.
Second,
Already
Wilson.
it's 2026. How can that be? Okay, and we're looking at we're looking at all three readings, right? That's what we're approving
Yes.
first.
Yes.
Okay. And it was Trustee Rye and Trustee
Wilson.
All right. And I see a question, Trustee White.
Yeah, I'm just not sure what we're approving. I've looked at this and it says we're approving a procedures bylaw, but what is the procedures bylaw?
And it actually is part of it.
So this bylaw will be cited, but what bylaw? Like what's the meat of this bylaw? What is it actually saying?
I'm going to have to turn that over to somebody.
It's the second attachment in the first motion.
I wasn't able to see any detail
yeah.
on it either. I just assumed it's what the city has. The city must have a bylaw, and how because they're the ones conducting the election, I believe. So that was my assumption, but I also didn't see any bylaw attached.
Yeah, I just don't know what I'm voting on.
I guess I'm going to need some help with this because I'm not aware of exactly how this goes.
Chair Peterson, sorry.
Trustee Wilson first. Yeah, Trustee Wilson.
Those of us who've been here before probably are very familiar with it, and hence it slipped past. But the requirement is, unless we want to run the election ourselves, we turn it over to the city, and this allows for this to rest with the city for the general election.
Thank you for that. Trustee Rye?
Just wanted to say that in the first motion, let me just go to the motion. Trustee election procedures bylaw is the second attachment. Second from top, that's where the procedure bylaw is. And that's what we are approving. That we are handing it over to the city of Abbotsford.
So that's all we're voting on. We're just saying, hey, the city of Abbotsford is going to do this.
That's correct.
That's correct.
Hey, thank you for that explanation. All right. Okay, does that answer questions? All right. So here we go with voting buttons.
Move second reading with a comment. First reading, sorry. Move first reading with a comment.
First reading, all right. Trustee Wilson, seconded by
Trustee
Trustee
Rai.
Taylor.
Trustee Rai?
Thank you.
Chair Peterson, my apologies, but the procedural bylaw has not yet been voted on completely by all board members.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry. Trustee White, please.
Yes,
Thank you.
sorry. So now that I'm clarified on what we're voting on, I apologize. We're voting that all three readings would happen in this meeting.
Yes.
What's the purpose of having the readings spread out? If we didn't do it all in this meeting, then it would just be spread out like what, in subsequent meetings?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly that. And we've
And-
used this procedure in most of these bylaw decisions.
Yeah, and is that,
In fact,
I'm
on
just
all of them
wondering
that
what
I can
the,
recall.
and I've often wondered that, like, what's the rationale for wanting them spread out? Like, why would we even have to do this? Like, there must have been someone who originally put this together and thought that they should be spread out. Just wondering what the rationale was
I
there.
guess
Does
if there were
anyone know?
questions or debate in between, then that would allow that time to do that. But
Okay.
in all of our cases, they're really legal obligations, and
Okay.
for that reason, we do it this way.
Okay, sure.
Right? Trustee Wilson?
Quick comment. BCSTA held a board chairs meeting, I don't know, somewhere in the last 10 days. And it was raised that there are some significant changes to the Elections Act that were not in place for our by-election. And one of them includes, and it's more for the municipality providing the election, things such as there are requirements for the elections officer to be able to announce all election stations, all of a sudden I forgot what they're called, polling stations, by no later than July 24th, for example, which is, it's a diverse, like it's very different than it has been in the past. So I just wanted to highlight things like that. And anybody out there in the public world or on our board who is looking at running again, there's a big difference between the rules in 2022 and for the past by-election. Those don't apply anymore. It's things have been changed.
Thank you for that. All right. Okay. So we're into second reading, looking for a mover.
Chair, no, we're still on first reading.
Oh, still,
It was
okay.
first reading, I moved.
All right. Yeah. And
I
seconded by
seconded.
Trustee Rai. Thank you. Thank you for keeping me on schedule. All right. A few more votes to come in. Trustee Kander, thank you. All right. And with that, let's move along to second reading.
Move Keeler.
Trustee Kaler, thank you. Move seconded by
Second by
I'll
Rajwan.
second Mike Roach.
seconded by Trustee Rouch, and voting buttons are coming. And third and final reading, somebody has to do some reading.
Moved by Rajwan.
You need to read the whole thing.
Yeah, that the school district number 34 Abbotsford trustee election procedures bylaw 2026 be given third reading, reconsidered and finally adopted on this 20th day of January 2026.
Thank you for that. Seconded by
Keeler.
Trustee Kaler, and voting buttons. Okay, moving along.
Question?
Yes.
Thank you. First, I'd be remiss if I didn't also congratulate Secretary Treasurer Monica Schulte for joining the fray with us. Thank you very much. It's nice to see you in this position. My question is actually for you, SC Schulte, and that is we will have a confirming that we will have a remuneration committee, stipend committee that will be established by your office that is arm's length from our board, and a report will be brought forward in June for the board to review and recommended to adopt for the stipend for the upcoming term.
That is correct. Trustee Wilson, we have already started bringing that committee together.
Thank you.
All right. Moving along, BCSDA Fraser Valley branch update. Who's going to take this on? Trustee Wilson, I suspect.
Yes, thank you. We had the pleasure of hosting last night the 5-member boards of the Fraser Valley branch of BC School Trustees Association. I want to extend warm appreciation to the principal, Heather Reed from Abbotsford Middle School, to our own superintendent, Dr. Nathan Ning, and to Danielle Molina, who is joining us on this call, for their efforts on our behalf. We don't host very often. There's a cycle that it goes through. There are, in terms of hosting, and it's only twice a year that a board needs to host, so every 5th board hosting, we're up again. And I'd also like to offer congratulations to Trustee Arsh Kaler, who is now officially a member, which lets Chair Peterson off the hook, who's now officially a member of the branch executive. I'm sure that you'll enjoy it. It's not a busy workplace, so to speak, but it is a great place to do a lot of learning. So congratulations, Trustee Kaler. And again, thank you to our staff who did this on our behalf and on behalf of the other 4 boards besides us that work in the Fraser Valley. Thank you.
An off the hook isn't quite how I see it, but I appreciate Trustee Kaler taking this on. I'm on a number of committees and boards, so it helps out. Thank you. And he will be a great representative for our school district. Okay, notice of motion.
Thank you, Chair Peterson. If you can bring up the motion, notice of motion up. I have this notice of motion to be debated in the next public meeting, February 10, 2026. It's not up for debate now, but I'll just read the motion that the Board of Education, through the chair, send a letter of gratitude to all employees of the Abbotsford School District, expressing the board's appreciation for their care, dedication, and commitment to each and every student in our schools. I can read the rationale, but it's there for everybody to read, and look forward to the debate next.
All right, and I can ask this question of you, Trustee Rye, if you'd like to put that motion forward to this meeting, it would be appropriate. Otherwise, it'll move to
I'll
next.
wait for next one.
Thank you very much. All right.
Thank you.
Okay, and a BCSTA AGM motion.
Thank you, Chair Peterson. For a little bit of background, before I actually move the motion, it's on here as a motion through agenda setting discussion, because our next meeting in February would mean that it would become a late motion for BCSTA and it would be inadmissible. And this is something that I'm hoping our board will support to bring it forward in a timely fashion before the end of the term.
Okay.
And I'll speak to
I
why.
will second it. I will second it to put it on the table.
Okay, so I'll move it and you're a seconder, and then I'll speak.
Yeah, I'll second it. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So that's Wilson, right? Thank you. So there's the motions before you. I think we've all had a chance to discuss it, as well as the rationale is there. There was at the branch meeting last night, there's an opportunity for the branch to endorse a motion to move forward to BCSTA AGM, and on the condition that it stands, the motion itself as it reads, then it can proceed as it reads to BCSTA AGM in April. If not, then we need to go back to the branch and ask for an extraordinary meeting to approve any amendments should they proceed. However, I would like to just let everybody know, just remind you that 5 of us were in the room last night regarding this motion. So the motion itself stems from, and I want to be very careful about this, because I understand that this can be stigmatizing. Having had my own child in supportive housing, I'm absolutely in support of supportive housing, not a problem. what has transpired over the last few months, less than a year, is BC Housing entered into an agreement with the Ministry of Transportation to use land for a temporary housing project for supportive housing across from our a middle high school, which raised some concerns. The consultation process itself was not adequate. It came after the agreements were signed, which is typical with housing agreements around cities, municipalities, rural, urban, suburban. The issue becomes the city does not do this consultation. It is strictly the BC Housing folks who do this consultation. To be clear, city does consultation on projects around development, but not around housing. Health authorities also have housing. I'm only speaking to the BC Housing consultation process, which did not come to us until after, and kind of caught us off guard. And we had to work very diligently to present our issues and concerns and our rationale for some changes, given that there were concerns raised by both the Parent Advisory Council, the neighborhood, and the district itself. In the location on Martins Road, there are no services accessible. There are no services without even crossing, they would have to cross the freeway or go a different route around, which is not always the case. And in response to that, they actually added a shuttle service, hence the benefit of consultation. This is not about telling them what they can and can't do, not even close. This is about saying, please speak to us, here are concerns, how can we work together to resolve those concerns? We understand and we believe that these housing should be in place as mentioned in my rationale. And I do believe that given that, and I reserve the right to close, but given that, I think it is important that we move this motion forward. The way that it was amended from, if the board noticed, it's been rewritten from how it was originally posted in the agenda. And that is a direct result of where at least 5 of us were in attendance at the meeting last night at the request of our branch for their endorsement. I'll hold off till I close. Thank you.
We have a mover and a seconder. Comments, Trustee. Do I see anybody with their hand up? Trustee Kaler, go ahead. Yes, first. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Vice Chair Wilson, for bringing this forward. I will definitely support this motion, as it will hopefully give us the information needed next time, which we didn't have this time with the Martin Street project. The level of uncertainty and confusion absolutely did not help with messaging that went out in the community, even for us at the board level. So I am hopeful that all my colleagues will also support this. It will just make things easier if there is to be a next time.
Thank you. All right. Any others? I can only see some of us on screen. So
Trustee Roach and then Trustee Kanda.
Oh, okay. Trustee Roach.
Trustee Roach here. Yeah. Thank you, Chair Peterson. Trustee Wilson, it's a great motion. I'm just curious to know, during last night's meeting, we had an amendment made, and I see that, I think, reflected in the first paragraph. I'm just wondering if in the second paragraph, the confidential process part is somewhat redundant. So I just want to make sure that this is consistent with what the branch discussed yesterday.
If I may, Chair Peterson?
Yes.
Just to answer the question.
Yep.
Yes, this was never at issue. This piece was there as presented to branch. It was the first paragraph that was requested to be changed.
Okay, so you're going to leave the second paragraph as is, even though it's somewhat redundant, saying confidential twice. I just wanted to point that out. I like the motion. I just was curious whether you wanted to redraft anything there. Thank you.
I'd prefer not to, thank you, just due to the fact we'd have to go back to branch and the confidential process. This is emphatically about it being compassionate and empathetic lens. That's the difference.
That's all I have. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Kadarajwan, yes, there we go.
Thank you, Chair Peterson. Thank you, Vice Chair Wilson, for bringing us up to the branch yesterday. I'm a huge supporter in harm reduction, and I feel like the consensus is that we are supporting our community, but having that prior communication is going to help us to be all on the same page. So I appreciate that. That's the focus of this motion, is to have discussion prior to any consultations moving forward.
Anybody else? I'm just going to close by saying that I got to be part of the discussion, and I really have to appreciate the Abbotsford Traditional School PAC for their advocacy in and around this. Some changes were made as a result of the advocacy of of all of us, and although it might not answer all the concerns that we have, I think most of those concerns at least were addressed, and so consultation is a good process, and I will definitely support this.
Chair Peterson, I had my hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. I, you know what? I just wanted to reiterate that this has got nothing to do with harm reduction or anything to do with housing. It's just that the school, if it goes to the BCSTA, that all the school districts are consulted before the decision is made and things are signed with other agencies. We just want to be consulted, and like Vice Chair Wilson said about the shuttle service that came out because of this, we could have all avoided that confusion and angst in the community. Thank you.
Thank you for that comment. All right. So
May I
seeing no other,
close? May I
yes,
close?
you may close. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. I just want to thank everyone for their words of support, because this will not go forward just from us. It will actually go forward from the 5 boards that are within the branch, and it will go to the annual general meeting in April as a board supported motion. One of the other things that I wanted to mention is we're hoping, this is something that the superintendent has spoken with us about, is that when the consultation process opened here, and it was one afternoon at one place, and the notice went to a school rather than the district, which actually owns the building, then it becomes a cause for concern. So it really is important for us to support what needs to be in the community for our people that are unhoused, and for people that are sometimes involved in toxic drug use. It's really important for that work to happen, and whether we like it or not, with 46 school sites, and our other buildings, there's always going to be something within a couple blocks or even 3 or 4 blocks of our facilities, and regardless of how close it is or not, it is safer to have individuals housed than it is to have them on the street, and it's really important for them to have that support. So I appreciate that in advance of the support that I just heard coming from the table. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, with that, let's vote. All right. And before before our question period, trustee announcements. First of all, we see a list of things that were attended. It's a smaller list given that we had a break, but I'm sure there were other things that we attended and so on. If anybody has anything they wish to share, fire away. I see Trustee Kaler.
Thank you, Chair Peterson. I did want to talk about the Rick Hansen event that we attended. That was just absolutely incredible. Seeing those grade 12 students present their capstone projects to people they've never met ever. And they did that, repetitively, because there were so many people there as guests, and just having that experience of doing presentations and talking to people and explaining what they have learned and just going over that. It was just amazing to see everything that the students had come up with and just such unique projects. It was just amazing. I won't take too long, but I just did want to highlight and say a big thank you and congratulations to all of those grade 12 students at Rickhanson.
Thank you for that. Thank you. Yes. All right, Trustee Kandarajwan.
Thank you, Chair Peterson. I just wanted to reiterate yesterday's AGM for the Fraser Valley branch. It was great to see the commitment from all the trustees in our region, and it was nice that we were able to host. And it was some great conversations across the board.
All right. Any others? Okay. Well,
You're forgetting me again, Chair Peterson.
you know what? For whatever reason, the hands are showing up so lightly that I it's hard to see them in some cases. No how
worries.
can I possibly forget you, Trustee Rai?
No worries, no worries. I just wanted to add Trustee Kandarajwan's about the Fraser Valley branch, BCSTA branch AGM, sorry, the meeting yesterday. It was all the other trustees who were there had a tour of the facility, and this is I would guess one of the first modular buildings or modular extensions going into a building in the province, I would guess, and they were quite fascinated by it. And you know what, I took a tour as well, and I can't see the difference between an actual building and a modular building. So and it's my understanding the cost was less than half. So I think we should encourage the province to give us more of these.
All right, and we'll take them. Yes. Okay. Seeing it, not seeing any others. Any questions? Any questions for us from our online watchers?
Chair Peterson, we've not received any questions.
No questions. Okay. Well, with that, I don't want trustees to leave yet, but with that, I'm going to call our meeting adjourned and ask trustees and our superintendent to hang out for a bit. Thank you to our support staff for always making these meetings manageable, despite our my lack of technology skills. But anyhow, thank you for all attending. Thanks for anybody who is watching this, and we move forward in a positive